Deserts, such as this one, are dry places which receive little rainfall. The plants here, such as this saguaro cactus, must be able to survive for long periods with little rainfall. Animals must be able to cope with traveling, reproducing, and obtaining food in this arid desert environment. In stark contrast to the desert is this Cypress Swamp, located in Florida. It's dominated by large cypress trees that have the ability to grow in large amounts of water. This swamp is a place with many different kinds of plants, a wide variety of birds, and reptiles such as turtles and alligators. The Cypress Swamp and the desert are only two examples of the many different environments on Earth. All the living and non-living things with which an organism interacts is called its environment. During the next few minutes, we're going to discuss some of the fascinating features of environments, exploring not only the living and non-living characteristics, but also the relationships between them. These flowers can't live in this garden without the help from other elements in the environment, including the sun, rain, and nutrients from the soil. Similarly, fish also need things from the environment to survive, including oxygen they breathe from the water and food they consume. In turn, fish return valuable nutrients to the water which they excrete. They may also serve as a source of food to other living things. As you can see, in any given environment, living things are interconnected with each other and with the environment in which they live. Ecology is the study of the relationships between living things and their environment. And ecologists are scientists who study the interactions and relationships of living things with each other and with their environment. Let's now take a closer look at some of the characteristics of different environments. This tidal pool environment is quite different from this grassland environment. There are a wide variety of different environments on Earth. To help make sense of these many different environments, ecologists have found it useful to divide the world into ecological systems called ecosystems. You decide. What is an ecosystem? An ecosystem consists of all the living and non-living things in a specific area. The boundaries are rather arbitrary. For example, an ecosystem can be as small as this tidal pool or as large as the ocean. It's important to remember, however, that boundaries placed on ecosystems are for the most part artificial, and ecosystems overlap each other. This meadow is a type of ecosystem referred to as a grassland. The plants and animals that live here or visit this ecosystem are affected by a number of physical factors. These physical factors are also referred to as non-living abiotic factors or abiotic components. You decide. What do all living things need? Water is an abiotic component essential to living things and all ecosystems. This grassland receives water in the form of rain or snow. Another abiotic component that all living things either directly or indirectly depend on is light from the sun. The plants in this grassland need the sun to carry out the process of photosynthesis, and many animals need the sun to see and for warmth. Temperature is another abiotic component which affects all ecosystems. This grassland ecosystem experiences temperature fluctuations throughout the year that have a big impact on plants and animals. Soil type is also an abiotic component of ecosystems found on land. The soil here is quite fertile and contains useful minerals which enable plants to flourish. Wind is an abiotic factor which can significantly affect ecosystems. These are some of the major abiotic components which not only affect grassland ecosystems, but most ecosystems on land. Let's now take a closer look at biotic ecosystem components. When we think of nature, we usually think of living things such as plants and animals. The biotic components of an ecosystem include all the living things in an area. This is a monarch butterfly, and this is a swallowtail butterfly. You decide. What makes these butterflies different from each other? These two different butterflies are members of two distinct species. A species consists of a group of organisms which can successfully reproduce among themselves. Members of the same species possess similar characteristics. They often appear and behave similarly. A group of the same species in the same area is called a population. For example, the water lilies in this pond make up a water lily population. Rarely in nature is a single population of organisms the only population in a place. For example, in this wetland located in the Florida Everglades, there are populations of alligators, fish, and water lilies, to name just a few. All these different populations of living things make up a community. A community consists of all the living organisms in an area. Ecologists often categorize areas by natural communities. A natural community consists of all of the plants and animals interacting with their environment. The definition of a natural community is similar to that of an ecosystem, but the size of an ecosystem is variable, from as small as a tidal pool to as large as an entire mountain range. Ecologists tend to refer to natural communities in more localized areas, such as hillsides, swamps, or forests. For example, this forest is referred to as a hemlock forest. It's called that because hemlocks are the dominant tree, although many other plants and animals are found here. Even though you can't see any animals in this meadow, you can see other living things. What are they? That's right, plants. Plants are found nearly every place on Earth. Most plants don't eat other things for energy. You decide. How do plants get their energy? Plants produce energy via the process of photosynthesis. In the process of photosynthesis, plants produce energy from the light of the sun while taking in carbon dioxide and water. In turn, they produce oxygen and energy. Plants are generally referred to as producers in that they produce their own energy. Plants are not the only producers. Certain types of bacteria are also capable of producing energy from chemical compounds they take in. Animals that eat plants or other living things are called consumers. These sheep eating grass in this meadow are consumers. Decomposers are a third group of organisms found in ecosystems. Decomposers break down the remains of dead animals and plants into simpler substances. Certain types of bacteria play a big role in decomposing once-living plants and animals. Decomposers return valuable nutrients to the soil, which are then utilized by plants. As we just mentioned, animals, including humans, need to eat other living things to obtain energy. In most ecosystems, the relationship between producers, consumers, and decomposers is quite complex. This is a simplified diagram of the pathway of energy flow in a forest ecosystem. Notice how the paths of energy from one organism to another cross frequently, forming a web. This is referred to as a food web. From this diagram, it's easy to see that all living things in an ecosystem are interconnected. During the past few minutes, we've explored some of the features of ecosystems. We've discussed some of the major abiotic components found in ecosystems, including temperature, water, soil type, and wind. We also took a look at the biotic components and some of the ways they interact with the physical environment. We discussed how ecologists categorize areas into natural communities. We explored how energy flows in ecosystems. So the next time you take a walk in the forest, visit a wetland, or just sit in a nearby park, think about some of the things we've discussed during the past few minutes. You just might think about your world a little differently. Fill in the correct word to complete the sentence. Good luck, and let's get started. Number 1 is the study of living things in the environment. Number 2, wind is an example of an factor. Number 3, plants and animals are components. Number 4, a group of the same species makes up a Number 5, a consists of all the living things in a place.